Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe for a second here. Bring on our meta people. We'll get things cooking. It's going to be a fun conversation this Thursday evening. We're live on YouTube. That's good. That's a comfort. So I'm going to go for it. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, first things first, we haven't been on the mic here for a couple of days, and the Broncos have made a new signing. They brought in a punter, which, look, it's not the sexiest thing. No one's getting excited about the prospects per se of a new punter. However, when you don't have a punter under contract, it becomes a little bit more of a prominent storyline. So break it down since you had the story for us on milehighhuddle.com.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty excited, Chad, because it means that another roster need is filled going into the draft. They did sign someone who's familiar with Darren Rizzi. His name is Matt Hack. It's another pronunciation issue for us, Chad, I think. Hack or Hawk? H-A-A-C-K?
I think it's Hack, but we'll have to research that and see.
So he had prior experience. He played under Darren Rizzi, the Broncos' new special teams coordinator in Miami. He's a left-footed punter. The Broncos brought him in because of the directional capabilities that he can bring to the table in the altitude at Mile High, especially. I think he averaged about 44 yards a kick during his time in the league so far. But, Chad, I think he's had also 3 punts in the last 2 seasons. He's been bouncing around from team to team. So for now, I would say he's Riley Dixon's replacement, the full-time punter, but I would look for the Broncos to bring in some competition through the draft next month.
On one hand, you can say, well, maybe Darren Rizzi got his guy, but this is literally a dude that's just been bouncing around, Zach, the NFL. So it's not like, to me, it doesn't feel like the permanent solution. It feels like a stopgap for now type thing that could, in fairness, go on to be the permanent solution for the Broncos. But at least if they had, if they were going to have an OTA tomorrow, they at least, Zach, now have 3 specialists under contract.
Yeah, Richie Rich made a funny comment there. Let's be careful there, boys. Already had some blonde chick who got famous using that word. That's pretty funny. Good to see Richie Rich too. You're kind of an OG from back in the day. But yeah, it's kind of like the Broncos kicking competition a few years ago, Chad, when they brought in Will Lutz. I think they had another kicker in the summer, and Will ended up winning that job. So we'll see how that shakes out. They could use a draft pick on a punter. It could go that route.
True. Let's give some hellos to Todd. What's going on, big dog? Great to see you. Dylan helping us out in the chat, as is his way. Great to see you tonight, brother. And the Papa Bear jumping in early with a super chat. We love you. We appreciate you, big dog. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag God bless the USA. Let's go, Bo. MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. I heard a rumor. Stephon Diggs signed with the Broncos asking for a friend. Zach?
No. I mean, I haven't been on Twitter in like the last hour, but yeah, I don't think Stephon is coming to the Broncos. He had a workout with the Patriots, I think. And last I heard that he left that workout without a contract. So I don't want anything to do with Stephon Diggs, David. We'll pivot to whether the Broncos should sign him. They haven't signed him yet. He's older. He's coming off an injury. He's kind of a cancer. If there's one receiver on the open market still left that the Broncos should look at, it's Elijah Moore, who can play inside, outside, out of the backfield. A little bit of a mini joker for Sean Payton, though I haven't heard any interest there either, Chad.
One thing to guard against, David, and Papa Bear, I don't know if this is necessarily the source of the rumor, but one thing I've noticed, pardon me, I have to spend a lot of time on Facebook because we manage a couple of really big pages, and more and more lately, I'm seeing a lot of scammy, fake, false stuff, like legitimate, not legitimate, but decent sized pages, meaning like, several thousand follower pages, like Bronco fan pages type thing. And it'll straight up lie. It'll say, it'll show like a picture, for example, in this situation. I didn't see this, but this would be an example of the type of stuff I've seen, Papa Bear, which is a picture of Stephon Diggs, and then literally a caption above it that says, Broncos sign former Pro Bowl receiver. And people go, oh, and they go into the comments to click to like see what's up. And there's a little link, and the link takes them off somewhere, Lord knows where, but it's not real. I've seen a lot of that stuff, and I don't know, Zach, if it's the way Facebook's algorithm tweaked about 2 years ago now in real time, where they're not seeing and paying attention to that and penalizing legitimate liars on Facebook. But keep an eye out for that stuff. And not to say that, oh, blue check mark snobbery, only go to pages that have the blue check mark, etc. But I'll remind you, MHH has that certification. We're never going to lie to you. So just beware of that stuff, especially from like fan oriented pages. I don't know why some of those pages are doing it, but I digress. Mike Jones,
Mike
triple
Jones.
one. What's up, dude? Punters from my town. They used him in some fakes.
Yes. Yeah, he was a former high school quarterback. I forgot to mention that. So he had 2 or 3 passing touchdowns in college as well. So he can throw the ball a little bit. They can use him in that kind of formation. So Mike Jones, I love saying that name, the old rapper. Yeah, you have a point there. And that's why I think Chad, he has the leg up right now, no pun intended. Also his familiarity with Darren Rizzi. I'm interested to see what he can do to replace Riley Dixon.
As you guys can see, I'm fiddling with my light here. The curse of using green screen backgrounds. I was just complaining to Zach and Scott that yesterday at my location, my neighborhood, the power went out for like an hour. And when that happens, it resets my light, and then I have to go down the rabbit hole figuring out. The last time I had to set it up to balance me perfect, it was like 6 months ago, and I basically have to start over. Zachary, great to see you. Appreciate the stars on Facebook, my friend. Says, hey, Chad and Zach, just checking in from Minnesota. Knicks for 6. Amen, brother. And just another example, Zachary, of Broncos country. It's not a geographic location. Read the hoodie. It's a state of being, baby. So thank you for being with us tonight, Zachary. It's great to see you. Also, Zach, look, we have the Duchess saying hi on X, which is cool. Great to see you, Michaela. Zach, so another piece of news, and then we'll get to a few other interesting topics for tonight. Well, first of all, Marcus Lewis Henna from across the pond in the UK jumping in. What's up, brother? Says, hi, guys. What do you feel like getting a welder type player, MHH for life? Zach, I'm not sure what he's asking. I need your syntax expertise here. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, we're all at a loss. Marcus, please clarify that because we'd like to answer the question. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that term, welder, but probably a typo.
I'm not. Maybe it was a typo or like an autocorrect or something. I'm not sure on that one. I'm seeing if he's correcting. But Zach, while we're getting to the bottom of that, the Broncos still have a few original free agents who remain unsigned, and we've wondered who, if any, are going to come back, kind of like Justin Sternad. They brought him back last week, etc. There's some buzz that the Broncos plan at some point or are expected to bring back fullback Michael Burton, and you had the story for us, so break it down.
Yeah, according to everyone's favorite 9 News reporter, Mike Kliss, he said it would be a surprise at this stage of the offseason if Michael Burton did not come back to the Broncos for a 3rd season. Sean Payton favorite, played with under him in New Orleans, been the fullback the last couple seasons, is still a free agent. Wouldn't cost too much, I would presume, Chad. Veterans minimum type deal. They don't have a fullback, although they do have Nate Atkins who can play fullback and tight end. So if they don't bring him back, it means that Nate Atkins is in the plans. But that's the skinny right now, as they expect, or the insiders expect, Michael Burton to return in 2025.
All right, so we got to the bottom of Marcus's question. What he's asking is, guys, do you feel like we need a Wes Welker type player? So the traditional, Welker, Julian Edelman, Brandon Stokely slot type players. Zach, do you think that's something missing from the current Broncos as constituted?
Well, you have to ask yourself who on the current roster can function in that role as the sure-handed underneath slot guy. That's why some of us wanted the Broncos to pursue, not overly, and they didn't in the end. Cooper Kupp could have been the perfect complement, the perfect safety blanket, the perfect Wes Welker type. But to answer my original question, I don't think anyone is suited for that role right now, Chad. Vele and Cortland Sutton are kind of outside receivers. Mims and Franklin are speed guys. They do need someone underneath, and I would assume that's why I pitched Elijah Moore. Can play inside, outside, in the backfield. You can move him around, and he could be that Wes Welker, although I don't think is productive in Denver.
Sean Payton likes more the big slot. That's honestly, when it comes to slot, that's more of the role that Evan Ingram was brought into play. I mean, he'll play some inline and he'll play tight end. They'll move him around the formation, but I think no. The answer to that question, Marcus, is no. I don't expect them to bring in that type of a player. Although trivia, no one's asking, but kind of fun fact, I guess, is a better way to put it. The very first article ever published at Mile High Huddle after I started the website about 11 years ago was a Wes Welker concussion story back in 2014. So yeah, those were the days, man. He was a fun player to watch. Had some bad luck in Denver. Had some bad luck toward the end of his career with concussions in general, but that one season, man, that 2013, that was awesome. But it's not really Sean Payton's way, Zach.
No, you're right, and that's why they've been so high on Vele and Cortland Sutton, to the point of extending Cortland Sutton and not going and splashing for a receiver in free agency. There are a few. I saw someone mention Keenan Allen. There's, he's older. There's injury history. He didn't have the greatest season in Chicago. The fact that the Broncos haven't made that move, though, Chad, seems to me, like you said, that Sean Payton just doesn't want that Wes Welker type, that he will suffice with Evan Ingram and whoever else they draft at tight end.
Guys, lots more to get to tonight. First, listen up. March Madness, it is here, basically. And nothing beats March basketball. Bring the fun of a bracket to every game day by making entries on Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. So ask yourself, do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog.
And here's how to play. Choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, like points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your basketball knowledge.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you this, man, whether you're watching the Broncos or the NBA or March Madness, Underdog makes it so much more fun. And, of course, there's a little something exciting about having a fun kind of skin in the game, so to speak. So download the Underdog app. Sign up now using the promo code MHuddle to unlock that special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun with your football priests when you sign up with our code MHuddle. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash upon first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Avoid in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Okay, back to the chat we go. There are several stories I want to get to, but I want to give some props to the Ronk. It's good to see you in the chat tonight, my friend. Hope you're doing well. And it wouldn't be a good MHH stream without the Ronk contributing to the conversation in the chat, and also giving some good advice that I saw earlier about where to get solid information. Zachary jumping in again on Facebook says, second stream I've been able to make. Well, welcome to the manger, homie. Says, but I listen to your podcast all the time. My question is, and thank you, bud, if there was a wide receiver free agent still on the board, who do you think the best option would be? Mine would be Garrett Wilson. Zach, educate him on Garrett Wilson.
I wish, Zachary, great name, by the way. I wish Garrett Wilson was on the board. I wanted the Broncos to trade for him a few months ago. That didn't materialize, but I already named mine. Elijah Moore could fit in with the Broncos with what he can do and what he can bring to the table. Amari Cooper's still out there. Stephon Diggs we talked about. Keenan Allen we talked about already. So it's kind of slim pickings, but my guy would be Elijah Moore if they had to choose.
Yeah, so Zachary, Garrett Wilson is not a free agent. So that's the key takeaway there on your assertion. How great would it be to have him in orange and blue? It would be awesome. But you can't have all the best players. But right now, honestly, I was writing about this today when I no offense to the MMQB guys, much love and respect, but who was it? It was Gilberto Manzano included, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't the MMQB. I got to find this real quick. It was PFF reveals their favorite and least favorite Broncos. No, that's not it either. I'll come back to this. I got to find it. But basically, Zach, that's what it was. That's what it was. The worst case scenario for the Broncos in the draft. Okay. When you get to pick 20, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And indeed, it was PFF's. It was Bradley Locker. And his worst case scenario, Zach, for the Broncos at pick 20 is that 3 of the top 4 receivers are off the board. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, again, look, they've got a content quota to hit. I understand that. The wheel keeps turning, but did you miss Sean Payton's couch interview with Kay Adams at the Super Bowl, in which he's already been proven from a lie detector perspective, Zach, to have been telling the truth on multiple levels? Was that the one thing that he lied about when he said, we're a lot happier. We're happy with our wide receiver core. We don't view that as a huge need. You go, well, maybe that's the one thing he lied about, because still, as you can see, the outside perception, even from awesome fans, is like, well, Broncos still need wide receivers. And maybe that's, hey, that's your opinion, Zachary, but the Broncos don't seem to share it. And even if you don't want to trust what they say, trust what they do. And what have they done? Well, we'll do that in the negative sense. What haven't they done, Zach? They have not signed a wide receiver. Now, you can say, hey, Evan Ingram is just a big wide receiver, and you'd be basically true. But wide receiver guys, whether it's free agents or like PFF's talking about pursuing one in the first round, I just don't think that's on Denver's brain. I don't think Sean Payton and George Payton are tripping on wide receivers, Zach.
You might be right. I read a piece from Mike Kliss today. Shout out Mike Kliss as always. Who he said that the Broncos, it'd be a surprise, in other words, if they went receiver at 20 and they have a much bigger need at running back. So I bet the PFF guy, Locker, if you were to ask him who the Broncos starting running back would be week 1, 2025, he wouldn't tell you. If you brought up who Audric Estime was, he probably doesn't know, or Jaleel McLaughlin. That's kind of the point. So for him not to know that running back is the most glaring need, and for him to say that receiver is the worst case scenario, I don't even think there's a worst case scenario, Chad, because if the running backs, receivers, and tight ends are off the board, there's still a defensive lineman probably you could take, or a trade back scenario. They're in a prime situation to walk away from day one with an elite blue chip player at an area of need.
Well, and also that's one of the benefits that a really productive free agent haul gave the Broncos, is that freedom, that prerogative to remain as disciplined to the best player available approach as possible. And yes, to some extent, that is always going to be filtered through the lens of needs, whether it's immediate needs, Zach, or preemptive needs. Like you got 3 guys, on the defensive line that are entering a contract year. So honestly, the closer we get to the draft, the more I'm wondering if it's going to be, Zach, a defensive lineman at pick 20, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's always been kind of out there floating since the Eagles took down Kansas City is, JFM contract situation, Zach Allen contract situation. There's not really much depth to speak of behind them. Don't rule out. It's not my plan A or plan B, but don't rule out the Broncos going plan C and going with a Harmon or a Walter Nolan, someone of that nature next month.
Now, here's an interesting angle from the previous question from Marcus about the Wes Welker type with D-Dub. By the way, jumping in with the top rope super chat. Much love and respect to you, my friend. Hope you're doing well out there in paradise. Thank you, buddy. He says, Tez Johnson, Bo Nix's adopted brother, would be a good Welker type receiver. If the money could be worked out, as in real cheap, I'd love to get Keenan Allen. He had 70 catches and 7 touchdowns last year with Caleb Williams throwing in the ball, and he missed 2 games. Zach, there are others out there that are sharing a brain with D-Dub about Keenan Allen being a match for the Broncos. I know you recently wrote about this, but What's your take for D-Dub?
Yeah, Dale, I forgot the publication. It might have been Bleacher Report. They link the Broncos to Keenan Allen as a potential, dream scenario free agent fit. And I wouldn't hate it giving Bo Nix another veteran, or a veteran, considering Cortland Sutton's pretty much the only one weapon around him. But you just have to wonder, is the best we've seen from Keenan Allen, is it behind him already? Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to contribute? He's kind of like a mercenary now at this point of his career. And if you want to go for a mid-tier receiver, there are, Amari Cooper still out there, someone like that. So I haven't heard much of official interest, though, in Keenan Allen from the Broncos.
The thing about Keenan Allen is he's a great route runner. He's got really good hands and he's savvy. He knows how to work the field, so to speak. And in that sense, he's reliable, but he doesn't really bring, like, if the Broncos are missing anything, they have possession guys. I mean, Cortland Sutton, Devon Vele, and now even Evan Ingram, they have kind of a twitchy and very fast Marvin Mims type mold that's going to be used as a little bit of a move around weapon. And then you've got Troy Franklin, who he's still kind of coming into his own, figuring out exactly what his pro calling card is going to be. But when I look at this receiving core, if there is a vulnerability, if there's a shortcoming, a weakness that the Broncos could build on, to me, it's speed and continuing to add that explosiveness to the equation. And you can get that from Cortland Sutton when you go vertical on the my ball situations. Same probably with Devon Vele, although we haven't seen him tested in that format too often up to this early stage in his career. Troy Franklin's got the speed to take the top off with an accurate thrower. But other than Marvin Mims, Zach, the true, like, a guy that kind of keeps the defensive coordinator up at night because of his speed. Speed kills. We've seen that over the last 5-10 years of the NFL in particular, but especially of late. That's what I see. And so winding that back to Keenan Allen, that's definitely not him. Now, if the Broncos signed Keenan Allen, he'd be a great asset considering his experience and what he could do to help the Broncos and Bo Nix, more reliability. But if you didn't have Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen would make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, and another kind of not rumor, but a link between the Broncos and their potential day one selection is the Texas receiver Matthew Golden, who might be the fastest guy in the draft. Chad ran a 4.29 at the combine. He is pretty good size, and I wouldn't mind if they went that route if he's on the board. But you're right; they need some more speed, and that speed can also come at running back if they go that route. If they prioritize a Travion Henderson, for example, this year's Jahmyr Gibbs. So they do need more speed and more dynamism in the backfield.
The one thing real quick before we move on to the Duchess, and I guess we'll grab his second point that I'll say about Keenan Allen that I want to echo D-Dub here that is interesting is how productive he was with a rookie quarterback, especially that first half of the season, man. Caleb Williams was he was a rookie, right? And he was very productive with the rookie. D-Dub, thank you for a second.
Thank you so much, Dale.
So generous, bro. He says, all valid points, Zach. I think Keenan is a guy who gets open in a pinch. Great route runner. That's a playoff guy. A place he hasn't played much. Where are the three positions you each want to see addressed with the first three picks? Great question. You go first, Zach. We'll get the answer for D-Dub.
I want a running back. You know what? I want a receiver too, and I want a defensive lineman. That's where I want the Broncos to go. I don't, it's nice that we can rule out quarterback, Chad, for once, but I have to stay true to my own board. I have to stay true to my own convictions. I've wanted this offseason, or at least the draft, to be about boosting Bo Nix's supporting cast. And how you do it is by getting those blue chippers and not sitting on your hands and waiting. So, yeah, running back, receiver, or tight end, and defensive line.
By the way, nothing when I talk about like not expecting wide receiver in the I'm not saying in the draft, I'm saying in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be totally shocked by it. The Broncos, they're going to really err on the side of, like Zach said, blue chip. But for me, in a perfect world, what I'd want to see is like a Travion Henderson in the first round if he's there at 20. And a recent mock, I think Nick has the article coming for us here very soon at MHH, has the linked Henderson to the Broncos. But as Dylan mentioned in the chat earlier, the Broncos, one of their official top 30s they took with his backfield mate, Judkins at Ohio State. So that's interesting. Quinshawn, who, by the way, had the coolest hairdo and haircut at the combine with it split down the middle, different colors, was kind of cool. So I'd like to see as far as just positions, running back. Oh, man. Running back, D-line, or linebacker. Oh, this is tough for me, actually. Tight end, because I know even though it's a deep class, most of my favorite guys, I don't think they're going to be there after round 3 at tight end. Although I do still have a sleeper that's most likely, and that's the dude I've liked since the Senior Bowl, Jake Brenningstool. So, but that would be like really taking your chances if you didn't take a tight end. Look, you don't need a tight end in a desperate sense with Evan Ingram in the fold, Zach. And that's one of the cool things about the way the Broncos maneuvered in free agency. But still, like we did our publisher, the On SI publisher mock this week. In fact, it published this morning. And I had the Broncos. He was there. So I took him still. Colston Loveland at pick 20 in the first round. I don't think he's going to be there in real life, but it's interesting to see how the publishers who are covering these teams, a lot of them in the building, it's really cool to see how their respective teams' free agency shaped their mock picks, because especially, Zach, relative to the first version of the On SI publisher mock, I mean, almost everything was different till you got to pick 20 with me. And it was once again Colston Loveland because he was on the board. How could I not take him? He was on the board.
Well, yeah, you don't need a tight end after signing Evan Ingram, but it would sure be pragmatic of the Broncos to have one, as I saw a comment by J.R. Peel, learning and acclimating and not feel like he's forced into playing time. That's a position, Chad, that doesn't translate right away in the NFL. It takes some learning. Jake Butt, Greg Dulcich were two examples of that. They never really got it, but still. So it'd be nice where they can have that guy and a blue chipper at that, maybe a Colston Loveland or whoever, Arroyo, and you have Evan Ingram, because he's not getting any younger, Chad. He's not going to be here 10 years. No. And if he is, he's not going to be producing like a tight end 1 for 10 years. So I wouldn't rule that out.
No, I wouldn't either. And plus, you think back to like the heydays of Gronk and Hernandez with Brady, where that kind of changed the game and teams were trying to find those 2 tight end situations. You could get really creative if you're Sean Payton with a guy like Ingram and Loveland. Now, she's been a very, very patient girl, Michaela Parker, jumping in. Thank you so much.
Michaela.
To the Duchess, one of our dear friends, jumping in on Super Chat, helping us keep the lights on. We love you. She says she wants to know, Zach, will we sign a veteran running back? Love you both. We love you.
Love you, Michaela.
Hashtag Broncos unleash the Bo Kraken. Indeed. I remember the original Clash of the Titans when that was like a real thing. Unleash the Kraken, man. That tripped me out when I was a little kid. That stop motion monster coming out of the sea and all that stuff. OG Clash of the Titans. But Zach, this is something that you and I are a little bit split on the whole, should we, but she's not really asking should, she's asking will we sign a veteran running back? So it's looking like no, but what do you got?
Well, your boy's still out there as far as I know. J.K. Dobbins, a lot of Broncos fans I see on X want the Broncos to pull the trigger on him, but I don't know. The longer that they wait without signing a running back, any running back, leads me to believe that they're going to draft multiple next month. But I did read that Cliff's article I was talking about, Chad, and he kind of said that don't be surprised if they do pick up some veteran, experienced insurance policy at running back either sometime before or after the draft. So we'll wait and see. Thank you again, Michaela.
I'm seeing a report here today. Oh, no, it's a prediction. Wait a minute. Hold on. I think he's still out there. So forget what I was about to say. Why is that? Google, why do you have that ranked number 1 under the J.K. Dobbins search word? That is ridiculous. But yeah, J.K. Dobbins, if I still think the Broncos would be wise to add a veteran, just because, yes, it's a deep running back class and there's a lot of great options basically throughout the draft. There are a lot of really interesting options. But just in case, because you don't know how the chips are always going to fall, I would bring one in. I would get one while the getting's still a little bit good. And like I've talked about, I think, Zach, on the last couple of shows, maybe we've at least mentioned it, but in Dobbins' case, I mean, this is a guy who, I'll pull him up again, last year as a 1-year mercenary for the Chargers after he went 3 years flamed out in Baltimore because of injuries. All right, so there's the caveat. But he had 11 starts, and he rushed for 905 yards with 9 touchdowns, and he averaged 4.6 yards per carry. That's very healthy, Zach. Very, very healthy. I would like to see the Broncos try and bring him in, but it would have to be at a reasonable price. And I think he's probably realized that even at the tender age of just 26 as a running back, and I think a former second round pick. I think he was a second round pick. Yeah, second round pick. Um, you know, it's hard to swallow maybe, but at least at this point in his career, Zach, he's really a 1-year Band-Aid type of mercenary. Now, if he landed in the right place, went on to have some success, that could turn into something more. But I like J.K. Dobbins as an option for the Broncos, as like not the permanent solution, and here we go, this is our answer, but like, here's our veteran guy to kind of lead the way and buffer us against any, unforeseen draft shenanigans. And then also, if you look at it from like a Sean Payton historical lens, he's the Ingram, right? He's the Mark Ingram, but they still need to find the Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I'm looking over the available running backs right now, and it's a pretty sad list, Chad. Dobbins clearly is the best available runner. It's not saying much, but you had guys like Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards, Jeff Wilson, Nick Chubb. These are all either washed guys or very injury-prone backup-type players. Dearness Johnson, who destroyed the Broncos in Cleveland a few years ago, if you guys remember that game on Thursday night, I think it was, he's out there. I mean, Deontay Foreman, Cam Akers, Mike Boone, old friend of the team, old former player of the team, Trey Sermon. It's just a lot of who's who of very mid. So Dobbins, if we're going to go that route, I'm on board now, I guess, Chad, on a 1-year deal, but they still have to prioritize that heavily in the draft.
My second guy, though, real quick before we move on from this topic, would actually be if the Broncos were going to prioritize at least one veteran that has some proven experience. My second guy would be Nick Chubb. That's including the arithmetic of the knee, right? Because he had that brutal knee injury kind of late in the 2023 season, not late, but in the 2023 season. And it was so brutal. It took him some time coming back. And in fact, the 2024 season, if memory serves, he started out on the PUP list. And then by the time he came back, I don't know, something like around week 7. All right. And he went on in 8 games with the Browns. He started them all. 332 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. Not really impressive. Similar, Zach, to kind of Javonte in his first year back from his injury, even though Javonte, I think, recovered from it a lot faster in terms of, I don't know, he was able to start right away the next season, even though their injuries windows were actually pretty similar. But Chubbs and Williams were both grievous, gnarly knee injuries. This, not to make light of like a ACL tear or, MCL or something. They both had like uniquely brutal knee injuries, but he didn't quite bounce back, but kind of in the same vein. So you're going, well, then why are you advocating for him? Kind of in the same vein, Zach, of George Payton's remarks about Javonte at the combine when he said, look, we don't think to this point, we love Javonte and we want to talk to him about coming back. He ended up signing with the Cowboys, but we still don't think he's fully recovered from that knee. There's still some room to recover, like he's trending that way. And maybe that's the case with Chubb. So if I were the Broncos and there was an interest at all, I would definitely want to get in there and check out that knee, right, and see where things are at with that. But I do like Chubb as a possibility. Nowhere near am I as excited about the possibility of getting J.K. Dobbins relative to Chubb. I don't see the out of the gates, out of the can impact possibility.
If they were to sign a veteran running back, I think they would do it to replace the one skill set that they lost when Javonte went to Dallas, and that was his pass protection. So any running back available, Chad, that appeals to them from a pass protection standpoint, I can see him coming in. But again, this is going to be, Michaela, a position they target and prioritize next month in the draft.
Love you so much, Duchess. Rock on. We also have here Tucson Phil checking in. Much love and respect to Phil, who is a dear and treasured member of our community. So consistent every single show, whether it's this one or any of the other MHH podcast shows. So much love, Phil. says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. It was great listening to Thomas last night, chatting with former Broncos, legendary Broncos offensive tackle, I'll say, Mr. Ken Lanier. Great player and great insights speaking about our Broncos. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Yeah, that was fun. I was in the room, so to speak, and it was interesting hearing him share his observations about some of the current Bronco issues. But for me, the fan in me, and being a child of the 80s, I'm born late 70s, start being like Bronco aware, 86, 87, something like that. I remember Lanier. And so it was fun to hear him tell some of the old war stories, like what it was like playing in, Cleveland back when that rivalry between the Broncos was insane. Of course, some Elway stuff. But yeah, that was cool. And props to Thomas for setting that up.
It's a good get for the brand, isn't it, Chad? Where else, Phil, you're going to find stuff like that except for Mile High Huddle? So I appreciate you tuning in. Like Chad said, you're very consistent, and it doesn't go unnoticed at all.
Okay, we also have here Nathan Phillips checking in. What's up, dude? Thank you for the super chat. Still hoping for interior defensive line, if not Genty. So if Genty doesn't fall at 20s, wants interior D line. Eagles strategy with the QBs in the AFC West. Yeah, like people still, Zach, I'm sorry. Like you guys know, I'm not a Geno Smith fan. Like I've always been very suspect of him. Even when he was a prospect coming out of West Virginia, I was like, I don't know about this guy. And then he fell out of the first round and kind of flamed out at his original stop. Where was that? New York, right? It was the Jets, right?
Yep.
And so when he landed in Seattle, I was like, he's just veteran Band-Aid backup guy. And then he goes on to reforge his career, emerging as a Pro Bowler, and still my skepticism. And then, Zach, both times the Broncos have been to Seattle to face him, they got dealt with. And Geno wasn't exactly like superstar in either game, although the first game when it was Russ, Broncos with Russ, he was a lot better. But my point here, I'm digressing a little bit. The Broncos deal with some upper echelon quarterback play in the AFC West now, Zach, and Geno Smith coming in, whatever your opinion of it is, he's at least better than anything they had in recent history, post Derek Carr anyway, and he's reteaming up with Pete Carroll. So it's reason to not say fear him, but take it seriously. So what's your answer for Nathan here?
Yeah, you made some of the points that I was going to make too about the quarterback, reference to that. But a lot of people, and I understand it, they see what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl and they need more defensive linemen. That's the secret sauce. And to an extent, that's true. But what got the Eagles there, except for just tremendous quarterback play from Jalen Hurts? It was even better play from their running back in Saquon Barkley. So one hand kind of washes the other. It's a what-if game as to whether if they didn't have either, would they still have made it and won? But I don't know, Chad, that it's your plan A or plan B for Denver. It's certainly not mine. I'm only speaking for myself. But just keep that in the back of your mind, Broncos country. Nolan, Harmon, one of those guys could be the pick on day one.
I wouldn't hate it at all, honestly, because A, you could use the depth today. B, gives you some freedom. You're not as dependent on JFM, Malcolm Roach. Zach Allen's coming back no matter what. They'll get him extended, but it gives you the freedom to get him developed for a year and then see what comes of the JFM and Malcolm Roach situation. So I definitely would not hate that, Nathan. And by the way, guys, tonight we have to keep it a little bit tight. We started late, but we got to get out of here pretty soon. So consider this your 2-minute warning. Any burning questions, topics, get it in the chat. George, great to see you on Facebook, brother. He says Dobbins is another injury problem. We already have the two. The odds aren't good, so I'm saying draft 2. And it's a fair, hey, dude, I'm not gonna push back. That's how you're viewing it. I'll say this though. Every guy the Broncos have signed so far, with the exception of Sherfield, has an injury jacket. It's the NFL, right? Injuries are part of the game. Again, the thing that gives me confidence is of all the places they could land, it's with Sean Payton, Bo Lowry, and this system, the way they do player health, their sports science approach, nutrition, strength and conditioning, the whole 9 yards. I would feel a lot better about the Dobbins, like take the Broncos loyalty thing out of it, staying healthy and continuing on his trajectory in Denver. In the same way, my argument stands, and why I've asserted this on the show up to this point multiple times as well. I feel the same way about Hufanga, Greenlaw, and Evan Ingram. So I feel your point, though. And again, it's looking like, back to my previous point, Zach, it's not what they say so much as what they do. What have they not done up to this point? Their actions are screaming to you. Whatever running back reinforcements are coming, Zach, it looks like the arrow's pointing toward the draft. And yeah, they could take two.
I'd be shocked if they got past pick 51 without a running back in tow already, if they don't dip their toe into that elite water soon and not later. But, George, I agree with you, and I'll take it a step further. I wouldn't mind if the Broncos drafted 3 running backs. The more the merrier. Chad, at one point last season, they were giving Marvin Mims running back carries. And by the way, a potential playoff clinching game. You had undrafted free agents getting carries. You had 5th-round draft picks getting carries and a washed Javonte Williams. I wouldn't mind an extreme infusion of youth, 2 or 3 running backs. It sounds crazy, but it's not.
That's the only thing really missing from the skill position equation now, but for Bo Nix is that running back, that run game to really lean on. So yeah, it's a priority. It's just for the Broncos, that priority, I think, is the draft. But Ron, thank you for bringing this up. Today is the anniversary of the Broncos signing Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning, which is pretty cool. Anybody who was alive, Zach, when JFK was assassinated, they'll always remember where they were when they heard the news. Anyone who is alive for 9/11, these are bad things. So, but stay with me on this path here. You're always going to remember where you were. I know I do. Any Broncos fan, this is the inverted positive aspect of that, I think remembers where they were when they've heard the news that after his whirlwind free agent tour across the fruited plain, of all the teams, and the insiders were telling us Broncos were one of the least likely teams to land him. Peyton Manning has chosen to sign with the Denver Broncos and change the game for the next 4 years. That was a sweet day. You might even remember where you were, Zach, when Peyton Manning signed with the Broncos.
Just one point of reference, though. This was when they introduced him 13 years ago today, not when they signed him. I hate to go the Will Actually route, but the point still stands. I was standing in line at Moe's. I don't know if that's a regional thing or not. It's like a Chipotle kind of restaurant. And I got the notification on my phone, and I saw it, boom. And at that time, I thought he was for sure. I wasn't on the Broncos beat, but I thought he was for sure going to Tennessee, Chad. That was the skinny. And then John Elway swoops in, and the rest is history.
Made a lot of sense. It would have made a lot of sense. His Tennessee connection, right? And not only that, but the purported crazy offers that ownership were making him to go to Tennessee. But I think that was his 2 things. Part of it was his loyalty. What loyalty he had to the Colts and Colts fans was, hey, I'm not going to go set up shop. I'm not going to be John Elway who gets cut unceremoniously and then goes and joins the Raiders. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to go elsewhere. But plus, if you think back to that time when Peyton signed this very day, talking about it in his introductory press conference, the way John Elway slow pitched the whole thing. He didn't come in all freaking out. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Please, you got to sign with us, trying to pressure him throughout the process, even after their meetings. He was just like, yo, I was an aging quarterback that wanted another ring, or at least wanted to win it all. In Elway's case, he had been to the dance 3 times. I know the type of things I would have wanted to have heard from my team, and the kind of the way the board would have been set, and we'll provide that for you. And basically, they did, man. John Elway was true to his word, and Peyton Manning, of course, looked up to John Elway as a young quarterback himself, coming up through the ranks. So that was cool. That was a cool asset, feather in Denver's cap. That was a sleeper factor as far as the way the media was viewing it. And then the Broncos told them they'd be competitive with the contract, so the rest is history. And boy, oh boy, it didn't start off super well, though. If you guys remember, last thing, and then we'll move on. What was it? 2-3, 2-4 start. It was a great first game. I think they went 2-0 and then lost 3, whatever it was. I don't have it right up in front of me. I'm going off the old noggin. But Zach, the turnaround point was that mythical Monday night comeback against the Chargers in 2012 that just opened up the floodgates, and they won that game, which, including that game, they won 11 in a row to end the season and won the 1 seed. only to get disappointingly upset in the divisional round by Joe Flacco and the Ravens.
And what's crazy is you mentioned the contract that Peyton got at the time, Chad, which is only 13 years ago. It's pretty crazy to think about. That was extreme quarterback money. That was not, that was the
Top
elite
of the
of the
market.
elite. Yeah, top of the market, the tippity top. Now it's linebacker money. It's just crazy how much the NFL has boomed in a little over a decade.
19 million per year was tippity top of the quarterback market, and Scott's confirming for me 2 and 3 they started. So anyway, fun times. All right, before we dip on out of here, Nathan jumping in again. Thank you, brother. Very generous. 2 super chats. You the man. He says, can the Broncos win the Super Bowl if the draft falls their way this coming season? What is your gut feeling? My gut feeling, can they? Yes. It wouldn't just necessarily be the draft falling their way, but I think you need to see other dominoes outside of the things they could control, other dominoes falling that are helpful to them. But I see it as a much more probable question in the old gut in 2026. But Zach, what's your answer for Nathan?
Here's what I'm comfortable saying, Nathan, and thank you for your second contribution. They're going to go further than this past season. They're going to get into the playoffs and they're going to win a playoff game. That I will feel confident telling you is my gut feeling. I can't look you in the eye right now, virtually or not, and tell you the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl next February. I don't know that they're there yet. And like Chad said, it's the best point here. There's things outside their control. There's foes that are right now better than they are, more proven, more battle-tested. Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, they got to get through them. Cincinnati, I think, is going to come back strong this season with Burrow and company. So will they be better and continue ascending? Yes, but I'm not quite there yet to say they're going to be hoisting the Lombardi next season. Hopefully, though.
But yeah, so I mean, the big X factor here, we can talk about the way the draft falls. We can talk about building the nest. We can talk about what's the state of, say, the Chiefs and the Bills and other factors somewhat outside their control. But really, once again, so as goes Bo Nix, so will go the Broncos' fortunes, which is, again, why it's so important to build that nest. And Sean Payton stood on, hey, building the nest doesn't just mean offensive weapons. It means making sure you're surrounding him on the roster. This is what he said at the Combine, with blue chip guys. And so that's the mission. But I think they are a little bit, as exciting as it was to get Evan Ingram in, they're still a little bit stuck in neutral a little bit relative to where they ended last season till they really add some dynamic reinforcements to the running back stable. So real quick, I want to grab this from Keith. Chad, saw your post on X. I'm here. My tinfoil hat idea. A draft day trade for Buffalo Bills running back James Cook. He wants a contract, and Buffalo, Zach, hasn't offered him one.
As far as I know, Keith, and he's a great player, don't get me wrong. He would instantly be the RB1, and no doubt about it. But he wants like top of the line running back money. Talk about Peyton Manning and his contract. And James Cook has not made any bones about saying that much. So would you want to give up premium draft compensation in one of the deepest running back classes of all time, or at least recent memory, and pay that running back top of the line running back money? I would rather get 2 running backs on cost-controlled rookie contracts who might have more upside and definitely less, wear and tear in the NFL.
I'm not sure what post you're talking about on X, though. Me saying like what I'm excited to talk to everybody. The Ronk, thank you, brother. Always helping us to punctuate each show with some support. And after the show on X, it's a great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Go Bo Broncos.
Thank you, Michael.
With that, we've got a few messages for you that Zach's going to run through. Don't dip out quite yet. We'll take one last look at the chat before we go.
Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please give us a follow on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, Check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/milehighhuddlepod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
All right, you guys, what a fun chat. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Before we dip on out of here, got to give our shouts to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on, like the Papa Bear, Mike Jones, The Ronk, Zachary hitting a couple of streams in a row. Really cool. Marcus Lewis from across the pond. Lewis Henna, that is. D-Dub from across another pond, but still within our greater pond. Geography, I'm not great with it, but Paradise, let's put it that way. Dale, love you, brother. The Duchess, Michaela Parker, love you. Phil, much love, brother. Nathan Phillips, couple of very generous supers, George Fox, and I've already mentioned it, but we'll keep the Ronk on screen for a little bit longer. But thank you guys. Zach and I, of course, we're off till Sunday night, but can't wait to see you then. Have a great weekend.
Have a great start to your weekend. We'll see you Sunday night. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.